folks, Why Would You Ask That is a podcast that answers some of the weirdest questions. A lot of those are inappropriate for some listeners. If you're squeamish, easily disturbed, or just having a bad day, this may not be for you. But if you've got to know the answers like we do, stay tuned.
Why Would You Ask That? Presented by me, M, they, them, and
Karen, she, her, and
Remy, he, they.
Woo! Alright, so today we're going to be talking about something interesting. Not to say that nothing we talk about is interesting. It's all very interesting. But what I mean by interesting today is it's coming up on that old holiday season that I'm very fond of.
Labor Day.
I do love and respect Labor Day. Labor Day.
Labor Day?
Shut up.
New holiday just dropped. How do we celebrate Labor Day?
By not fucking going to work.
Ooh!
Not forcing other people to work.
I like that.
I don't like shopping on Labor Day. Buying food on Labor Day. Fuck no. Labor Day, you just stay at home.
Stay at home. This day's for you. Self-care. Yes.
I'm talking more like, that month-long holiday.
Merry Chrysler.
Fucking Halloween, you fucking asshole! Jesus fucking Christ, bro! My God!
You're right. Christmas is like a 3-month-long holiday.
Like, Christmas is the undertone of 3 months. Like, everybody's like, Halloween's here, but we all know what's really coming up. And then they're like, oh, it's time to eat turkey. But we all know what's really coming up. And then the angry people on Facebook crawl out of the woodwork to tell Starbucks that their coffee cups aren't holiday enough. So, it happens like every year.
Yep. Nice.
I'm interested in today talking about very extreme haunted houses. Now, we had an episode on dark tourism that relates to this, to talk about it, because, we did our thing.
We had our time.
Had fun.
Yeah.
And, terrible thing that people do.
People do extreme haunted houses?
A lot of people do.
Yeah.
What? As in, like, visit or make them by...
Both things.
If I were to make an extreme haunted house, I would put ads on Craigslist. I would get the best ghosts.
Wait, are
Really
you going to
scare
be,
people.
like, pulling ghosts in from Craigslist? Do you just invite a whole bunch of horrible people from Craigslist?
No, I would invite ghosts. How else are you supposed to fill your extreme haunted house without ghosts?
Bro, I don't know. I just didn't know ghosts still use Craigslist. They should have better options.
Facebook Marketplace, I guess, is probably the next best thing.
I hate that for ghosts.
What kind of ghosts would you like to get?
I guess scary and weird. Maybe like a little bit of woo going on. I want my ghosts to make like really weird noises and like they bang things. They go, or they
Nice.
Bro, I could do that. Pay me.
I want my ghosts to be. I want to make an experience. No, it's not it's not an extreme haunted house if it's not really haunted. At that point, it's just a haunted themed house.
I'm haunted all the fucking time by all my own demons. Like, bro, come on.
So, Remy, tell us about some of these extreme haunted themed houses.
Yeah, today we're talking about haunted houses. In the dark tourism episode, I left at the end when I said that I was going to talk about a haunted house that some people call a torture house. Yeah, and that was my cliffhanger for this episode. So, The United States has a lot of haunted houses and a lot of people love going to them, but some of them take it far past the realm of the normal haunted house. So one year I worked in a haunted house, like forever ago,
What?
as like a person that screamed at you when you were going through a pitch black maze.
Oh, man. Have you ever been punched?
No, I have not, but I have been screamed back at,
Oh,
Amazing.
and I had a tennis ball thrown at me once.
I'm sorry.
They were just carrying that with them?
No, in the part of the maze that I was in, we had a bunch of cut in half tennis balls that were meant to feel like you were walking on rats.
That's pretty clever. I gotta give it up. That's good.
So I did this while I was I think I was in 11th grade in high school, so I would have been 16. And somebody threw a tennis ball at me, and a lot of people screamed right in my face, and I lost my voice
Oh my god.
because I did a lot of like really deep, throaty screaming.
You hadn't perfected your metal scream.
No, no. I just lowered my octave a lot, used my diaphragm because I'd been in choir for a long time, and did it for several hours on end, repeatedly all night,
Yeah.
for days and days.
Yeah, I could see that, yeah.
So people would come out of the main room where there was like they were going through like a graveyard situation, which was not terribly scary, but it had a lot of fog machine stuff going on. And then they would come into the maze part and then round the corner, and then I would do this like deep growly scream, and then they would go, "Ah!" and like jump backwards, and then my friend across the way in the other corner would do a high-pitched scream, and then they would jump back at me. And then I'd scream again.
And it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
And then usually they'd run out the other side of the room that we were in the maze, out that other little door out the other side, just a diagonal, you know. One person did knock a wall over.
Oh my god.
Yeah, just one time somebody ran into the wall and knocked the whole wall over.
That reminds me of the time we went into the Museum of Discovery, and we went to a haunted thing there. I screamed, and I hit a wall. But it didn't knock over or anything. I just hit it, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And, like, I would scream and tell the guys that I was sorry for screaming.
No, that's very you.
I'd scream, and then I'd laugh. Oh, sorry. Please continue.
No, fine. I go in haunted houses too, and even though I did that, I still get really weirdly flinchy inside of other haunted houses because those scare actors put in a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not scared outside of haunted houses of most anything because I've been watching horror movies since a really inappropriate age. So, inside haunted houses, though, horror actors put in so much work to make the environment immersive enough that you get really scared, even if you're not the kind of person who usually gets scared elsewhere. So I just wanted to bring my personal experience in working in like a quote unquote like normal haunted house where you're not allowed to touch people and they're not supposed to touch you, and all you're doing is like making noise and creating like a spooky ambiance.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. That's what it's like usually like. It's just kind of like a very mild psychological scare.
Yeah.
We talked once about a haunted house when we talked about that guy who makes weird smells for the haunted house that's in like the basement of that art gallery.
Yeah.
And he engineers these like super intense gross smells for them.
Like sulfur and decay, like rotting flesh. What was it was like it had a name. Like there were two compounds that he would use, and they had names that sounded like what they were.
Corpsicame or some shit like that. I was saying the words for days afterwards.
Cadaverine.
Yep.
And I don't remember the other one. Yeah. So you can get more immersive ones like that last longer and have more like weird experiences. But extreme haunted houses take it like way past weird smells. Those are the ones that like people can touch you, and all of these make you sign a waiver first of the ones that I'm going to read, agreeing to the terms, which are allowing yourself to be touched, allowing varying degrees of roughness, allowing yourself to be subjected to varying degrees of like brutality or violence that you're going to see or maybe experience.
Oh, the basement one was like that though too, right? I mean, they did have us to sign a waiver.
Yeah, I think in the basement one they signed a waiver because I think the actors in that one touched you, but it wasn't like crazy.
Wasn't extreme.
Yeah, I don't remember that one being extreme. Maybe
Just
physical and not extreme.
elevated.
You're gonna see. Yeah, elevated is a good word. You're gonna see. You're gonna see.
Oh boy.
A little worried.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna save that one haunted house that is so extreme that people have called it a torture chamber and not a haunted house. That it's a torture chamber disguised as a haunted house till the end. That way I can do the whole episode and then people can nope out of it at the very end.
Yes. Yes.
So as per the usual, I'm just going to give you a tiny bit of history about haunted houses because I think it's interesting. The idea behind haunted houses is not necessarily new. People have been telling scary stories to each other for a really long time. And as for physical scares, we find like the roots for that, like way back with the Egyptians and the Greeks. The Egyptians tried to keep body snatchers out of the pyramids by using fear and physical stuff in there with mazes and moving walls and self-opening doors and traps and snakes and insects.
Ooh, insects.
For the Greeks and the Romans, their folklore mythology is like filled with labyrinths and monsters and stuff populating those labyrinths. But in theater, they pioneered quite a number of devices that evolve into like the spooky elements that we use in haunted houses today, which includes fog, trapdoors, ghostly images, and fake blood and gore. Like, fun fact, the ancient Greeks created a multiple large-scale special effects contraption, including this thing that would make actors fly, and another thing that is like a wheeled platform that could go like out into the audience to like they used it to like display dead bodies and things like that, quote unquote dead bodies, fake dead bodies. And then up in like Shakespeare time, when he was doing his plays, we developed out special effects even better for things like blood and gore. The actors would strap bladders full of pig's blood to themselves, and then the other actors would stab that when they needed blood in their scenes.
Oh my god, it's so intense.
Yeah.
Gotta love the dedication.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. When I was reading about this, I was thinking about, I don't know if you both watched Zootopia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the very beginning, she is doing her little scene, and she's just like, blood, 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 and is like pulling red ribbons up and throwing them in the air. And death.
Death. Absolutely.
And it made me laugh because all the bunnies thought that was really intense, but then I thought about a guy in the 1600s stabbing another guy with a real dagger and blood gushing everywhere, and what the people in the audience must have thought.
Yeah, like, oh my god!
Man, these effects have really been going downhill lately.
You can see he didn't really stab him.
It's really funny. I didn't know that. I've researched plenty of Shakespeare, but I haven't really researched the like special effects side of what's going on with Shakespeare, just the writing part.
Right. It's not something that I thought of.
And I just thought it was funny. Yeah, I just thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
So, the haunted houses that we know of today started forming in the 19th century. So it hasn't really like existed in that form for all that long. The origins of that date back to London, when a series of illusions and attractions introduced the public to like gruesome entertainment of this sort in 1802. Marie Tussaud scandalized British audiences with an exhibit of wax sculptures of decapitated French figures like King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette.
Salacious.
So Tussaud's likenesses were so accurate, and it was with a good reason, because she created death masks of the French Revolution's guillotined victims. So then she set this up as a permanent London exhibition, and she called it the Chamber of Horrors.
She sounds cool.
She They still call it that over there.
I like her. She sounds fun.
Yeah, you see her name up on the wax museum still, like Madame Tussauds Wax Museum. I know you've seen it. If you've ever gone anywhere that has a wax museum.
I probably have.
I most definitely have.
But, yeah.
Well, it's not spelled like you think it is. It's French.
I always thought it was pronounced Tussauds.
It's spelled like that.
Okay. Okay.
I looked it up, because I also thought it was Tussauds. But I looked it up, and a couple of different places told me that since it's French, it's pronounced that way. So I was like, I guess I'll go with that. Somebody will correct me if it's wrong, probably.
We don't have those kinds of listeners yet.
Somewhere along the line, somebody will correct me.
Oh yeah, it'll come when we least expect it. Like, suddenly we'll just have people. And they'll be like, excuse me.
Do you know what? We have a very tiny amount of French listeners at the moment, so maybe one of them will correct me.
Yeah, because if I were to read this, I would say, like, Tussauds. Yeah. But Tussaud is probably the way that it's done. French pronunciation is, only... I only know what I was told.
I don't know anything. I spent time in Canada and I went, I don't get it.
Yeah. It just sounds like a bunch of... But of course, American English sounds a whole lot like,
May I have a hamburger, please?
May I have a hamburger, please? Bears? Whoop, 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 whoop.
Woof.
Tell me I'm wrong.
I mean, you're probably right. That's probably what it sounds like. At the turn of the 20th century, the closest relatives to the modern haunted houses began experimenting with, like, macabre themes. There was a theater in Paris that became notorious for on-stage depictions of graphic dismemberment. The theater's director famously boasted that he judges each performance as, like, success by the number of people who passed out during the show.
God.
Accurate.
In 1915, there was an English fairground that debuted one of the first quote-unquote ghost houses, an early type of, like, commercial horror attraction.
Mm-hmm.
And then for, like, focusing in on, like, Halloween, like, by itself, when haunted houses became specifically attached to Halloween as a holiday, Halloween-themed haunted houses emerged during the Great Depression in the United States because parents were trying to find ways to distract children from playing pranks.
Okay.
This is also why people started... Yes, this is why people started trick-or-treating over here also at the same time, like giving out candy, because it was all tricks.
We're just like, oh, please stop. Here's the ransom.
Basically, the article that I was reading said that the pranks had escalated so much that it was resulting in property damage, vandalism, and harassment.
Oh my god.
I love it. Really, we should bring that back.
So they started doing haunted houses. It said groups of families would, like, decorate their basements and hold a house-to-house parties of haunted houses in their basements. Kids would, like, go house to house and, like, go into strangers' houses and, like, do haunted houses in these people's basements, which sounds very unsafe, but it was the 30s.
Yeah. Oh.
It's the 30s before everybody had the idea that you could kill children. Before that, they were like, God, I guess, but then suddenly everybody at the same time was just like, oh my God, kids die? That's a really bad joke. I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's true.
Yeah. Or they could go down, like, they started doing these, like, trails of terror, like the haunted trails that we do now. So there was, like, I looked at, like, a party pamphlet written in 1937 that's supposed to teach parents how to do one of these. So here's a quote. It sounds really dumb, but, like,
I'm excited.
Quote, an outside entrance leads to a rendezvous with ghosts and witches in the cellar or attic. Hang old fur, strips of raw liver on the walls, Where one feels his way to dark steps, weird moans and howls come from dark corners. Damp sponges and hairnets hung from the ceiling touch his face. Doorways are blockaded so that guests must crawl through a long dark tunnel. At the end, he hears a plaintive meow and sees a black cardboard cat outlined in paint.
Oh no, it's gonna cross your path. Watch out, Jimmy!
Jimmy, no!
Now, to be fair, if I was walking through like a dark basement and a wet hairnet touched my face, I might also be afraid.
I don't want to be here. Disgusting.
I was reading the article and it said this pamphlet describes making this haunted house like any other person's haunted house that anybody has went to that was like a bunch of cheap thrills. And I was like, I don't know, if somebody hung a bunch of wet hairnets from the ceiling and I walked through them, I would also be afraid of what I had just walked through.
Yeah, I'd be like, the fuck was that?
Oh my god. It fucking touched me. Oh my god. Is that... Oh god.
Is that
What is
human hair?
Oh god. Oh god.
Yeah.
I'm already upset cleaning out my drain all the time. I don't need to be like touching other people's weird hair.
Yeah, it billed this, like the article really billed this as how it was all really stupid and like silly, but I just really want to picture yourself going down the stairs into a dark basement, for one thing, already a staple of the horror genre, and then you stumble through a dark room, there's like weird moans coming from every direction, you can't see where they're coming from, and then you walk face first into a bunch of wet sponges and hairnets, probably there's hair in there, and then you stagger into a wall and put your hand on a pile of raw liver.
No, I'm done.
Yeah, I think the only way for them to like understand how actually scary this is to kidnap them and make them do it.
And then you try to get out, but the doorway has been blockaded, so now you can't get out.
Now you can't get out. Oh no, what are you gonna do?
Die!
Everything smells like raw meat, and you've been touched in the face by a bunch of wet stuff. Put your hands in something bloody and raw. And the only way to get out is to crawl through a block, like a tiny little black tunnel. The only thing silly about this description is the cardboard cat at the end.
The cardboard cat is what gets me. Meow. It makes me think of like, I don't know, I'm just imagining it being done as a cartoon, and then the people go, ah!
This is the last straw. Like, after all of that,
after all of that,
cat, you're just like, I'm done.
I'm going.
What's wrong with the cat? Like, what is it? What is it?
What's it
wrong
gonna do? What's it gonna do?
When it comes for you? Black cat, black cat. Oh my fucking god. I didn't intend for that last part to fall into the rhyme, but...
Yeah, so... It's a lot scarier than you'd think it would be. This just reads to me like a really cheap way to give somebody like a bigger scare than you anticipate.
Yeah.
This is like haunted house on a budget.
Yeah.
Traumatize your children.
Yeah. Or delight your child who might be a little funny.
Or some way that the teenager can prank his friends.
Yeah!
Lock your friends in the basement with a bunch of raw liver and wet hairnets.
Get all their parents involved. What really scares your kid? No.
Okay, so then, but the haunted house didn't like become a cultural icon until, surprisingly, until Walt Disney built one in 1969 for Disneyland, the Haunted Mansion.
Oh.
He modeled the Haunted Mansion after the Winchester Mystery House.
Are we talking about the gun house?
Yeah, the gun house.
Got it.
The one that the woman built and built and built and built till she died.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, the gun house.
So he modeled the Haunted Mansion after that house, and something like 82,000 people went the day after it opened, and then just like a few years later, haunted houses were like the thing. They were everywhere, all over the country. And then, just like 10 years later, in the 80s, there was the horror boom when slasher movies became super popular, and also serial killers had been going for like 10 years now. And so At that point, the haunting industry was like really going strong at that point. And now we're going to talk about 3 haunted houses that are just very extreme in different ways.
Yay. I can't wait to be judgmental about these places and be like, oh my god, who would do this? Who would do this? Why? Why would anyone?
Just cause.
So first, we're going to talk about something called Blackout.
Blackout.
Drunk?
No. Blackout has been going since 2009 and is, according to their own website, one of the originators of the extreme haunted house. It was, based on all the ones that I looked at, it had the earliest start date, so probably that claim is correct. It's in New York. It's been other places, but that seems to be where its like home base is. You have to sign a liability waiver before going in, like all of these do that, because Blackout is a full contact haunt.
Full contact football. Jesus Christ. Oh, the amount of concussions.
No, it means that the actors are allowed to touch you all the way, all the time. Participants may be restrained, aggressively touched, made to crawl or kneel, all while immersed in violent or sexual imagery, which is from Blackout's website.
Whoa.
Questionable. Sounds like something that will give us PTSD on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So the sexual imagery, to be clear, is not a thing that will ever be done to you.
Okay.
But
done in front of you?
Yeah, the stuff that I was reading said that frequently the actors, at least one actor ends up being nude throughout the course of the evening. That you go through all these different rooms, and pretty frequently one of the actors ends up being nude in one of those rooms.
Wow.
Okay.
Could you imagine?
You're like, oh god!
As a matter of fact, I'm going to quote one of these, the woman that I read her experience. I'm going to link her experience on a resource page, but her experience included a nude man, and a nude woman, both of them in the same room.
Wow.
My puritanical values have been wow.
Oh,
violated.
Whew, that's a lot.
Naked people.
Yeah. And some of the scenes might include sexual imagery directed at you, but you're not going to be touched sexually from the things that I was reading.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
At least.
I watched videos on YouTube, like a lot of videos, while I was researching about this place. It was really hard to find images inside because it's largely just black in there, which is why it's called Blackout. And they post trailer videos of all of their seasons because they change the insides and the themes drastically season to season. But their little trailer videos tell you nothing, which is why I haven't given you any.
Mm.
Now I can give you one if you want to.
I would love to.
What year do you want? I've got 2019, 2016, 2015.
The most recent one.
I'll give you 2019 because it's the most recent thing on their website. I almost posted this into the D&D board. Here we go.
All right, let's watch this together, Karen.
All right. I'm ready.
1, go.
Since 2009.
Psychosexual horror art experience.
Oof. Virtuous.
Beautiful. Virtuously unsettling. Something about sadomasochism. 10 years.
Is it gonna scream
Forgot.
at me?
Yeah, it just keeps screaming and flashing images really fast.
Oh, is it screaming? I don't hear anything.
Oh, it's screaming and howling, and now we're fucking back, it says. Man, if I had epilepsy, it'd be bad.
Yeah, you'd be fucked, bro.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of flashing lights.
It's nothing but flashing lights. Wow, you weren't kidding when you said that tells you absolutely nothing.
Yeah, they're all like that. They all tell you nothing.
The fuck?
They really want you to go in blind. Which I guess is just the point, to go in blind.
Yeah, but damn, you didn't have to hurt my fucking eyes.
The woman whose experience that I read, who went step by step through her experience in there, said that the first question she was asked before she went into the first room was, "Do you have epilepsy? I need a verbal answer."
Oh.
And then she said no, and she went in the first room she went into was strobe lights.
Oh, God.
And it's because then right after that they turned the lights off, and it was extremely disorienting.
Mm.
And then they didn't turn the lights back on.
Oh, well.
It's why it's called Blackout.
That's why it's called Blackout.
So yeah, I watched some videos on YouTube about people's experiences in there. One person who interviewed like a bunch of participants said that now, didn't used to be like this, but now they quote unquote, because it's not real but simulated, they waterboard people now.
What?
How do you simulate that?
They make you put a bag on your head, and then they pour cups of water on top of you.
Alright. That's not really my thing.
And then the woman said that when you're done doing that, they ask you to scream as loud as you can, because that makes the fear more for the people coming up behind you. So, like, I'm going to read you a quote from the experience of Meredith Werner, I believe is how you say her last name, who writes for IO9 Gizmodo. You know that website? She says that you are subjected to modern military coercion tactics when you're put through there. And so she described those tactics with this example, quote, "Someone tied my hands behind my back, which was not tight and would have been easily escaped from, but was still keeping my hands behind my back, and bagged my head. I was left shoeless and kneeling against the wall. The bag over my already existing surgical mask made it hard to breathe. Thinking about the difficulty of breathing made it even harder." This was in 2012, so they made her wear a surgical mask to go in. It's part of the rules.
Okay.
One of the rules is that you are required to wear a protective face mask, which is a surgical mask, at all times while you're in there. They provided it to you, and also you're allowed to have a flashlight.
Okay.
During the rest of that quote on the actual interview, it says that she almost tapped out at that point because she believes she was there for about 7 minutes like that.
Wow.
Fuck.
Here's another example from her experience, and actually how she chose to open the article about her experience there. Quote, "I'm stuck in a cement hallway. The only light is from a collection of blinking TVs scattered on the ground. I take a step forward, and so does a figure on the TV screens. It's me. I'm watching myself. I try creeping forward until my bare foot lands on something cold and wet and feels exactly like a condom. Yes, that's a condom."
Oh my god.
End quote. That's the room where the naked people were at, as you can imagine.
Huh.
Her interview explains what happened it wasn't an interview, her post explained everything that she went through in that experience from the beginning to the end. It's funny. She puts a lot of humor into it, but also explains very clearly everything that happened while she was in there from start to finish. And at the end, she explains like how it felt and how she felt. Spoiler alert, she felt fine. She said that it was crazy and she felt shaken, but also that she had a really good time.
Well, that's good.
Now, if it all gets too much for you, they employ a safe word system, so you can call the safe word at any point. If you decide you don't want to do it anymore, you just scream the safe word, and then everything will just stop immediately and they will come and get you.
Every place should have something like that. Like every place like this.
And then just some interesting facts about Blackout. It began life as an art project meant to evoke a guttural reaction. The creators, Josh Randall and Christian Thor, wanted to create a haunted house where, quote, "There were no monsters, vampires, very little makeup. The whole goal is to create an effective experience of fear, which is subjective. We don't try to be scary as much as be effective. This is more about performance art rather than ghosts and goblins," end quote. And they said that their set design is meant to be like urban decay and meant to parallel the world that audiences come from and helps to blur the line between what's real and what's not.
That's deep.
Not as deep as the next one we're going to talk about, which is Miasma out of Chicago.
It's got a good name.
It does. It is a good word, yes. So using their own words from the website, Miasma is, quote, "Extreme haunted house, immersive theater, immersive horror. Miasma embraces pieces of all the labels others applied to us to create unique, narrative-driven experiences," end quote. They create, quote, "physically intense, psychologically challenging, emotionally resonant, immersive stories, unlike anything else offered in the country. Heartbreak, desperation, revenge, greed, selfishness. Miasma narratives swim in the ocean of the depraved to tell meaningful horror stories that matter," end quote.
Whoa.
So, queer? Minority?
A little bit. They change every year. My asthma has been open since 2014, but it's invite only, so you have to fill out a form on their website to be able to like get on a waiting list to be able to go.
Oh, okay. Very exclusive.
Yes.
Have you filled it out, Remy?
No.
Are we going, Remy? Our birthdays that have already passed, and Karen who doesn't want one for her birthday.
Yeah. Thank you.
I know you.
Yeah.
Now, if we ever actually move up there into that like general area, yeah, that would be a great. I would actually do this. Now, there's like I said, their experiences changes every year. That's what they're called, experiences. They change year to year. The from my research, this is more like living a day inside of a story, and less like actors jumping out and yelling like "boo" at you. Uh, the creator Justin strives to make this a thought-provoking experience. So, like, from all of the experiences have like little taglines attached to them. So, like, the most recent one is called Death King, and the little quote under it says, "All the warm waters of the world eventually grow cold."
Ooh.
The one before that was called Desecration of the Seven Witches.
Whoa.
And the quote under that says, "Let's see how much love you still have left in there."
Not a lot, if I'm honest.
And then there's a quote from somebody who went through it that says, "Like walking away unscathed from a violent car crash, left me shook to the core."
Wow.
And then I have another quote from Desecration of the Seven Witches that says, quote, "Seemingly inspired by the 1692 Salem witch trials, Desecration brings the mass hysteria, misplaced hatred, and devastation into the modern day. What sides are you on?" These words echoed throughout the experience, obfuscating my own role as I shifted between perpetrator and victim. In this manner, I had the power to become the hatred or feel the hatred felt by so many. When being asked by a victim about your allegiances, the answer on the tongues may be easy for some. But what about when a gun is being pointed at you by the perpetrators of the violence, or when the threat of drowning is very real? Will your ethical conscience still prevail, or will you save yourself and join in the hysterics regardless of your beliefs? That was one person's experience while going through.
Holy shit. I just want to know the stories. I'm so curious.
So the experience of that guy when he went through, or when she went through, when they went through, was that they were meant to experience the story as both being persecuted and being the persecutor, and to feel what it was like on both sides, and to understand that it's like you can say that you're on the side of justice all you want, but will your convictions hold up if somebody is really putting you to the test? It wants you to think about it at the end.
Right, right.
I only do homework for really good horror movies.
So the guest here says that the hands-on nature didn't feel gratuitous, but rather felt necessary, always in the service of the narrative, and meant to make you feel the atrocities being done on the characters. They said at the end, quote, "As someone that has been fortunate to have not been the victim of xenophobia, Desecration put me in an entirely new and uncomfortable position. Enlightening would be an understatement," end quote.
Wow. Kind of like what the weird tourist guy did with the...
When he went to the Mexico border crossing thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
But maybe done a little differently. I don't know.
Yes. This one is different, yes. Definitely not days and days of like starvation and stuff. And then I had a very short one that I just wanted to read because it is very short and does give you a step-by-step like portrayal of what happens during one of the encounters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not very long. So
I want to know. Give it to me. Give it to me.
I'm going to link it on our resource page. It's by Carl Webb from 2018 from the experience that was titled Into Great Silence. And the tagline of that experience said, "Some lost everything, some never had anything to begin with." So here was what Carl wrote about the experience. I stood before an unmarked door, the roar of Chicago's L trains overhead about to knock and make some questionable moral choices. Justin Brink's terror experience miasma, now in its fourth year in 2018, is an extreme haunt through and through, but aims to leave its guests thinking. Shows vary in tone from year to year, but one constant is a darkly sardonic take on deep issues. This year's show, Integrate Silence, explored greed and power. To get to that door, I had had to fill out questionnaires, undergo phone interviews, and perform tasks to prove my commitment. In every contact, it had been stressed to me that I was to follow every instruction given to me immediately and without question. I was expecting some sort of violence to begin as soon as I knocked on the door, so I was surprised when Justin opened it to let me in. Not in a ski mask, not dressed as a demon, but looking quite ordinary. He did have some complaints, though. Quote, I'm losing all kinds of money putting on these extreme haunts for assholes like you. Tonight, I'm going to have you make me money. Remember, do everything you're told. End quote.
Wow.
Before leaving, he introduced me to my partner, a big, intimidating guy in a ski mask. My partner gave me my very own ski mask, and to my unease, a gun. Quote, we're going to go in there and rob some people. Do everything I tell you to do and say everything I tell you to say. Be sure to grab any money you see. End quote. He paused. Quote, let's these motherfuckers know we mean business. Quote. We burst into a big empty warehouse room. Inside were some people sitting around a table stacked with money. Well, this will be easy. Following my cues, I held my gun on them while shouting something about freezing and hands in the air and blowing their heads off, all punctuated with profanity in the heat of the moment. I didn't get the wording out quite as I was given it. Apparently, I got the point across, though. They all stared fearfully at me, well, at us. We split the prisoners up and had them huddle in a corner while I took the opportunity to stuff my pockets with money. Then things started to get a bit darker still. My partner, it seemed, didn't just want to keep his hostages under control. He wanted to degrade and humiliate them, and like a good lackey, I followed his every instruction and was complicit in his evil. They were clearly shady, sitting around a table, covered in money, in an empty warehouse. They had it coming, right? Their revenge wasn't long in coming. At one point, I was left alone with one of the hostages, and he realized that my gun wasn't loaded. Soon, I was the one kneeling on the ground, looking up into his hate-filled eyes. Isn't it brilliant, he asked bitterly, all the options you have to run around the world looking for something exciting, mysterious, new, something to break the great silence of your mundane life. This doesn't make you special. The former hostages took their time getting their revenge on this thrill-seeking tourist. The memories of it seemed nightmarishly disjointed. The way I flung myself backward as if I'd encountered a poisonous snake the first time a stun gun crackled near me, working to control my breathing as I lay in a body bag, crawling along a straight line down a very long room to a woman on a pedestal who pretended to give me a choice, choking at the stench after she instead gave me what she thought I deserved. Many electric shocks.
Whoa.
Through all of this, I had ample opportunity to reflect that I deserved every bit of it for what I'd helped put these people through. Sure, I'd only been doing what I was told, but how had it become that important to do what I was told?
Yeah.
Later, as I lay in a bathtub looking up at the man I'd humiliated and the gun in his hands, I couldn't think that what was about to come was anything but justice. And later, back at my hotel room, it struck me that this was the only haunt I could recall that hadn't had even one monster in it. And then I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the mirror. Right. There was at least one. That's the end of his article.
Damn, bro.
Wow. That's scary.
Yeah, that is like trauma bottled up, served to you.
Yeah.
Fucking H Christ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I read it and I was like, oh my god. It'd be like I was like in a movie, except I'd be electrocuted. Which is why you sign a waiver.
Yes. Yeah.
So I wanted to read it because this was the shortest one, but this website that I'm going to link a bunch of stories from, there's like a bunch people from this website. It's called, the website is called haunting.net, and they apparently review a whole bunch of haunted houses. So I'm going to link quite a lot of articles from them specifically about miasma because apparently they really like this place. So they've gone to several years worth of events there and wrote up their experiences going through them. Like they've got one about the desecration of the 7 witches, but it was long. And then there was another one that was also too long. This one was short enough that I felt safe reading it because it only took me a few minutes to read it. Just give you a story.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it's like to go through one of these things, is it makes you just really think about things. I read another one that was about going through the life as though you were a guilty man, living through the choices that the guilty man had made. That started out with the woman writing, as I looked down at the woman at my feet, all I could say was, I'm sorry.
Bro.
Jeez.
And I was like, I don't I kind of want to do it.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I have enough guilt to last me. I don't need this.
Oh yeah, I don't need guilt. But I want the experience if it doesn't come with the guilt. I want one of their experiences that isn't about feeling guilty about something. Some of them seem like they're not.
You can't really pick and choose, bro.
Yeah. Some of them, some years seems like it's not as much about guilt as it is about other things. Man, I'd have to just pick a year where it's not.
Yeah.
You'd have to get lucky, bro.
Yeah, and get lucky. So, as for safety, he trains his actors in not just listening for a safe word, there is a safe word, but in watching for nonverbal cues also, like prolonged hesitation, which if you hesitate for too long when you're told to do something, the actor can break the scene and say, "Are you okay? Do you need to stop?"
I would be like, no, like, bro, I'm done. Wow.
I gotta go.
I walk in and I'm like, sorry.
Sorry.
I talk a big game about being mean, but like, man, when it comes to shit like that, I can't even be mean in a video game unless I'm robbing people.
No. You walk in and then you go, "I made a horrible mistake," and you turn around.
So sorry.
So yeah, Justin, the owner and creator, says that he doesn't think people should tap out, but understands that people can tap out and should be allowed to tap out. So he has the safe words, and he trains people to look for these nonverbal cues. And he says not to jump right in if somebody's hesitating. I read an interview. I'll link also because it had interviews with a bunch of other extreme haunted house people, but I couldn't talk about all of them.
Mhm.
But like some of them just sound extreme when you just like read the names of the place. Like the Victim Experience is the name of one of these places.
Oh.
Sounds like some people I know. Sorry.
So he said in that interview that that's something that he also makes sure that his actors are aware of, that after a certain point, if somebody is like, if you've repeated the instructions several times and somebody is still not doing it, for instance, to just stop acting and go, "Are you okay? Do you need to stop?" Like you can just dissociate from what you're doing and just quit reacting.
Mm-hmm.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. And then they do a general check-in after the show to make sure you're fine. Justin said that he doesn't think that every year's theme requires like an intense amount of checking in. He said that he likes a cold ending, was what he said, but some years the theme is heavy enough that he says that they'll do aftercare.
Aw, thanks.
You just come out and they hand you some cocoa and they're like, all right, so you ruined lives.
Yep.
And now I'll talk to you about the one I was teasing you with.
Please!
I'm so ready.
So this is the one, like, okay, listeners, this one is going to contain references to, like, real things, real pain and real gore and real bodily fluids and real stuff. So if you want to nope out, this is the point you can do it.
When you say bodily fluids and not blood?
Yeah, bodily fluids that aren't blood.
Bro, nasty. I'm outie. This is worse than what we read earlier. I'm not noticing anymore.
Well, I'm in.
I'm gonna go watch, Dr. Pimple Popper instead.
I cannot watch that.
You
Really?
can't?
No.
That's hilarious.
I know. I helped somebody put in an IV for 20 minutes the other day, but I can't watch an episode of Dr. Pimple Popper.
Oh my
That's
god.
amazing.
I know. And the nurse was like, almost touched me with like blood on her glove. And she's like, "Sorry." And I was like, "It's just blood." So.
You can only catch like a lot of shit from that.
I know. I've encountered so many gross things at work, but pimples just I can't. I don't know. They squeeze such gross things out of people's bodies on that show.
Yeah, isn't it great?
Nope. It's not. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about that particular form of doing things to people that really just grosses me out. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
All right, I think everybody left by now. All
Okay,
right, man.
yeah, we've given them plenty of time. Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you about the McCamey Manor. I don't know. Have either of you heard of this one?
Mm-mm.
Not off the top of my head, but I might suddenly like remember some shit I watched or studied or something.
Okay, so the base of operations for this one is in Tennessee, but there was one in San Diego at one point before he moved to Tennessee, and then he had one in Alabama that I don't know if it's still operational or not. This one is run by a guy named Russ McCamey, and before he gets started for an evening, the first thing he needs to do is call the cops.
Oh,
Oh,
why? Oh, to
okay.
warn them about just in case?
Yeah. The first thing he has to do is call the cops because he's had the cops called on him so many times because of the things that he has done to people that has resulted in screaming, or people have seen him doing suspicious things. And the cops have been out to his place so many times that now he calls the police to warn them.
Oh my god.
Guys, yeah, it's me. Again. Yeah. 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 Bro, I don't talk about police brutality, so just don't talk about my business. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, that's basically what he does. Yeah, it's me again. This was even on the Dark Tourist TV show when the guy went and did that.
Mm.
He, like, the dude Russ laughed about it, and then they interviewed some cops that said that they get so many calls to go out to that guy's house that it really is a nuisance.
Wow.
So, and then another article from Nashville Scene is the name of the website, says, and by the way, the name of the article, like the title of the article, is called Torture on Demand, just so you know how people feel about this place.
Well, feel like that's very succinct. I think that's the word I'm looking for.
Yes. Yeah, so the beginning of that article starts out talking about this and says, from the front porch of a trailer in Summertown, Tennessee, he dials a number. Lawrence County Dispatch, the woman answers, and informs the operator he's about to start his show. And it says, please, if you get any crazy phone calls from the neighbors, don't come out here, says McCamey. We had that happen once before, coming out here guns a-blazing. We don't want to do that again. And the operator laughs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
All right.
So, that's that place. That's how you know that's how you know. Nope. That's how you know you're at a bad place. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't trust that.
Don't trust that. If I go to a place and he calls the police.
I bet he's one of the guys who's like, I don't believe in safe words.
If I go to a place and he says, hold on, I gotta call the police and tell them not to come out here while you're screaming, I'm gonna be like, no, goodbye.
All right.
Oh, wow. Okay, that was my safety net, bro.
I'm leaving. Goodbye. Yeah. So it's a quote unquote haunt. I'm using quotes. This guy runs it out of his house, like off of his property, which is, like, I guess not that unusual. He's been operating for long enough that I feel like he should have his own physical location, but he doesn't. He just doesn't. He just does it off of his own land, and nobody else likes to call him a haunted house. Other haunted houses don't like him, and other haunt actors have a problem with him and his methods, so I just put haunt in parentheses.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so it's a haunt, quote, that lasts up to 10 hours.
What?
Yeah, bro.
I don't have a problem with the 10-hour mark, because I read about other haunted houses that go longer than that.
What?
While I was putting this list together.
What? That's a long time.
One of the haunted houses that I read was a 24-hour, like, thing. Well, it wasn't 24. It went overnight, so like 12 hours, I think, was what it did. But it was like immersive, like, you're spending the night in this place kind of situation. So, like, you would check in with a group and then you would spend the night there, and they would, like, terrorize you through the night in your little group, like, pull you out of the group and stuff. And you were, like, signing up to sleep somewhere, and, like, you're, like, huddled in a common room as, like, people are, like, taking shifts, watching out for the ghouls trying to steal you out of the group. And I was like, that's kind of cool, actually. The place sounded pretty neat. Yeah.
Fun, sure.
But, like, it was not designed as, like, a non-stop 10 hours worth of awfulness. It was like a whole long experience that you were doing where you got rest. And I read another one that was like meant to simulate the experience of being like in a horror movie in a cabin in the woods, and I think that lasted a whole night. So like there are things out there that go on for a long time, but you're not paying to be like harmed for that whole time. You're paying to have like an experience where you're like not actively being hurt for 10 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not that. For this one, it goes on for upwards of 10 hours and is a constant barrage of things happening to you and your body. The participants have to pass a background check. You have to pass a physical and mental exams, and you have to present those things to Russ. You have to sign a waiver. The waiver is 40 pages long.
Oh my god. That's excessive.
I'm out.
Not when you hear what's in it. You have to read it aloud so that Russ knows that you actually did read all of it, according to him and what I saw on the TV show when the guy went to do it. He told him, I make people read it aloud to me so I know they read all of it and understand what they're getting into, which is about the nicest thing out of this thing.
Yeah.
The last shred of mercy you get in your poor, pitiful life before you traumatize yourself.
Yeah, on the show, I think the guy said it took them 2 hours to read it.
God, that in itself is a horror movie.
Yeah, the guy actually
2 hours
said...
for 40 pages? Come on.
Yeah, because you're reading it, like, slowly out loud. So the guy who did the TV show, he said that, it took us 2 hours to read this and sign it. He said, was this already part of it? Was this already part of the experience? Which I thought was funny, but probably accurate. Inside of the waiver, it details things that might potentially happen to you in there, and I'll get into that in a second. There's a change.org petition that went around with 170,000 plus signatures on it, claiming that rather than being an extreme haunted house, this is a violent torture chamber under disguise.
Okay.
You have to be 21 to go in, you have to be insured, and you have to pass a drug test are the last stipulations. For a little while, Russ was offering $20,000 to anybody who could actually complete it, but no one ever did.
Oh my god.
And then he took the $20,000 away because he said, in his words, it's attracting the crazies.
Oh, okay.
Okay. As if you didn't have to be absolutely batshit to do this in the first place.
Yeah. He said this in defense of his own self because he was like, this isn't some sort of torture place.
Okay.
I even took the $20,000 away because it was attracting the crazy people, was like the context of the quote where he said that.
Oh.
And then he went on to say, I'm a real straight-laced conservative guy, also during that quote.
Yeah, that probably explains the whole, wanting to torture people thing.
Yeah, it doesn't help that I've read about this, that he uses his time as an interrogator in the military to facilitate his knowledge of how to do these things.
No.
I do believe he said that in the show, too, so it's not even, like, slander. He records each participant, he records you while you're doing your stuff in there. He records all of the physically and psychologically disturbing things that you do for his own protection, he says. But then he posts it on YouTube, so you can find quite an enormous amount of clips from in there on YouTube. I chose not to show any of them to you because I'm going to show you 3 pictures, and I think that'll be enough for you. I don't think you psychically, I don't think you want to see those things.
Probably not. The pictures will probably.
Yeah, I'm telling you two that I don't think you need to watch the videos. Putting my foot down. Yeah, I'm telling you that you don't want to watch them.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. He posts them all on YouTube, including showing the point where the participants quit, and then kind of just humiliating them about it.
What? That fucking sucks.
Mm-hmm. So, Chris Smith, one of his former contestants, during an interview said that he didn't even make it past the waiver the first time he tried to go. He said he read about all the awful things that might happen to him while he was in there and quit. He made it up to the last page and just quit. So, for example, here's his quote. Quote, I got to the last page and turned around and went home. There's so much. You might have to pull out your own teeth.
Oh.
No.
No.
There's a chance of getting a tattoo.
Uh.
A chance of your fingernails getting pulled out.
Nope.
Okay, no wonder people are like, this is a torture place on demand.
Yes, you'll see why people like to say about this place, this is not an extreme haunted house. After I've told you about the other two places that bill themselves as extreme haunted houses. This is not that. This is just as interview after interview after interview with other people who do extreme haunted houses said on YouTube and other places that I watched, over and over and over again, people absolutely drugged this guy through the dirt and said, McCamey Manor is just some guy living out his sick torture porn.
Yeah.
Chris Smith goes on to say, it's really overwhelming. There's a chance of death. Accidents can happen.
Mm-hmm.
He came back 2 more times and quit both times. I don't know why you would come back, but he came back 2 times. One time he tapped out after being buried alive in a wooden coffin. And the second time he tapped out after a round of hypnosis that gave him a panic attack.
Yeah. No. The fuck?
Yep. Other things that you might encounter, shaving your head, putting your fingers in mouse traps. According to this other article I've got opened, a video that you can find on YouTube shows blood-covered horror seekers eating cockroaches, vomiting and begging to be released from the macabre contraptions that seem straight off of the set of Saw.
Oh my god.
Another video with 2 million plus views features a guy named Steve having what looks like a panic attack. Nobody should do this, he stammers. Nobody should do this.
Oh my god.
Yep.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, literally, the second time he tried to do a show when he was in Tennessee, when he got to Tennessee, the cops showed up. So,
I mean, yeah.
They were called because witnesses reported seeing a screaming woman dragged out of her vehicle by him.
Oh my god.
But the woman said that she had signed the waiver, and he was just taking her off to go. He was taking her from the place she had signed the waiver over to do the thing. That's how he removed her from one location to the next. And even on the show, the Dark Tourist show, he you know that game where you put the dental thing in your mouth that holds your mouth wide open, and you're supposed to try to talk, and it drools everywhere, and it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Those always make me very uncomfortable.
On the Dark Tourist show, he crammed one of those in the guy's mouth and then put a bag on his head to take him to the place. Yeah.
I really dislike this.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. It says participants can choose 2 things out of more than 100 things that they can avoid and opt out of, but everything else is fair game, Russ says.
You can choose
2 things.
2 things?
2 things.
There's not... nope. I need more. Please don't pull out my fingernails. Please don't make me eat cockroaches. Please don't make me eat poop.
I would like none of this.
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
I don't want to pull out my own teeth. Thank you.
The Change.org petition calls McCamey Manor a shame to all haunted houses. I've also seen other horror, haunted house actors call it that, and claims that participants have suffered sexual assault, injections with drugs, and extreme physical harm. Russ says that the petition says that Russ, quote, uses loopholes to get out of being arrested, and that, quote, one man was tortured so badly he passed out multiple times. Workers only stopped because they thought they had killed him, end quote.
Oh my god.
A bunch of people have gone public talking about this stuff and about their own horrible experiences in there. One woman named Laura says that she went through the experience up until the point that she quit, claiming that the experience sent her to the hospital. And mind you, the average time that people quit this, 8 minutes.
8 minutes. Oh my god.
So one woman named Laura, she went through her experience there and claimed that everything she went through sent her to the hospital. And I'm just saying that the average amount of time people go through is about 8 minutes. So in a matter of minutes, she experienced enough that sent her to the hospital. The guy from the TV show lasted, if I'm remembering correctly, like a minute and a half to 2 minutes. And the guy he was there with only lasted like 30 seconds longer than him.
Jesus Christ.
So she said that she arrived at the hospital covered in bruises with scratches inside her mouth from actors fish-hooking her cheeks, like with their fingers. She said actors blindfolded her with duct tape, submerged her by her ankles in water, and buried her alive with only a straw to breathe through.
And how long was she in there?
On the Dark Tourist TV show, the guy that was partnered with the TV guy, I don't remember like the partner's name, but that partner that lasted longer, he quit because this dude Russ shoved his head underwater and told him to hold his breath for as long as he could, and then lifted his head back underwater, laughed at him, and said that wasn't very long, and then shoved his head back under the water.
Fuck.
In like a fish tank or something, and did it like several more times before the guy tapped out, and he was like, I quit, please stop.
Jeez.
It was like watching an action movie where somebody's trying to drown another person, and then the dude laughed at him and said, say your I quit phrase, and then made him like turn around and look at the camera, and he had to say something like, I'm a wuss, and the other guy that was there with him is better than me, even though the other guy quit first.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
And then the dude laughed some more. And then he laughed a bunch more while they were trying to interview him about how awful this all was. And then he just laughed and laughed and laughed. And eventually they just quit interviewing him.
Yeah, because, I mean, how do you interview a
psychopath? Like, seriously, this guy has to have something had to click. I mean, he found his calling. People pay him for this.
They actually don't.
What?
They don't?
Yeah, they don't. He doesn't ask for money. He asks for people to donate a bag of dog food.
I don't like that. Mm-mm.
So you can't sue him for money.
Nope.
So nobody pays him any money. They give him a bag of dog food, and then he can torture them for up to 10 hours. And he calls the police ahead of time to tell the police not to come to his house.
And the operator laughs.
Yep. And the operator says, okay.
Okay.
And the local police agree not to come to his house because there was a precedent set up originally that this was just a business and people were there consensually. Because those initial couple of times they went out there, the participants like showed their waivers and said, no, I'm here willingly because nothing bad had happened yet. Like,
right.
Nothing awful had happened to them.
Yeah. He hadn't, gone whole hog.
Yeah, they didn't have to dig a girl out of the ground buried in a coffin.
Oh my god.
Other participants say that they're forced to eat their own various bodily excretions, having their face shoved under the water, like I just said, or being locked in coffins with insects and spiders.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, 8 minutes. For Russ's part, because when you're talking about stuff like this, you have to put in the other perspective. So I'm just going to put a quote that he said. Just for the journalistic due diligence of saying what he has to say about it. Russ accepts a title of scariest haunted house in America, or maybe even the world, is how he bills himself and calls himself. But he denies that McCamey Manor is anything but an extreme haunted house, and it's certainly not any kind of torture chamber, he says. Quote, I'm a very straight-laced conservative guy, but here I run this crazy haunted house that people think is this torture factory and fetish factory, but it's not, he says. So there's that. And I will show you 3 pictures, and then I'll immediately delete them out of our Discord.
If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, it's a duck.
I think the pictures will prove to you exactly what's going on. You'll see. You'll make your own judgments. If this was not judgment enough. Here's the first picture.
Oh, Lord.
And I'll delete it.
Why are his eyes blue?
I don't know.
There's blood on his shirt.
Here's another one. I don't know what's happening in this picture, but here's another picture.
Oh, no.
Everybody's wet.
Yeah.
Delete that. And this one is going to be disturbing. This picture's caption said, participant gets squirted in the face with blood. Just so you know this isn't a needle.
Fuck.
Yeah, and I'll delete. Boop. and they're gone.
What the hell?
So that's what I had to talk about today. A very pleasant history of the haunted house industry in the United States. Two very, very fine seeming actual extreme haunted houses. And then a third example of things that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And I really hope that nobody goes there.
Yeah. Listeners, if you did listen to this part and you are morbidly curious, be morbidly curious in that you go watch the YouTube videos. Please don't do this. Don't do this. I mean, like he says that, that he'll abide by a safe word or whatever, but honestly, you cannot know. Yeah, like even if he's not, accidents happen. Even if he is really just a weird guy who just likes to scare people.
Sorry, I Google image some pictures. The pictures on Google Image are like enormously worse than the ones that I showed you. The ones I showed you are incredibly tame.
Oh my god. No, thank you.
No, I won't show you worse ones. Those were just incredibly tame, apparently. I will show you this one because it demonstrates the devices that he uses on people. It's from The Independent.
What the F?
Oh, I hate that.
That really does look like it's from the Saw movie.
It does, yeah.
This is an image of a woman with a cage over her head and a bunch of blood on her face.
Yeah, that's a horror.
She looks incredibly unhappy.
Yeah. Which,
there are pictures on this page that literally looks like I'm looking at something, like I'm looking at a still photo of a crime scene.
Yeah.
There's an image on here of him with a drill in someone's mouth.
No! My nightmares consist of things like my teeth falling out, or like going through and erasing my sketchbooks, or being back with my exes. Like, I don't need this shit.
I think that my appreciation for horror has always been more of the psychological horror and the mysticism of horror, and not the gore factor.
The I'm just happy to be here horror.
Yeah.
The horror that's like, because I'm with you, I at a certain point it's really just gross out. But I like the ones that are just like, oh my, okay, That you sit there afterwards, you're like, oh. I also like stupid ones though, so.
Oh yeah. So.
Oh yeah, and if you Google if anything terrible has happened, back in San Diego, where he rapidly picked up steak and left, there's an article that says McCamey Manor victim speaks out about being held captive after they begged to be let go.
So, friends, listeners, please don't do this. Do not do this. Self-care.
Just remember, anywhere that has to call the police before you participate is something you should probably think twice about. Because that sounds like a perfect cover-up.
Yeah.
Sign the waiver.
Last year, a woman at McCamey Manor was stabbed.
I mean, it just does not surprise me.
Sorry, officer. It was totally an accident.
It was the wrong knife. It was supposed to be the fake knife.
Didn't mean to stab her that hard.
Yeah, we're gonna need to do some aftercare for our listeners. So, listeners, I want you to think about a good time that you've had recently. Maybe you saw a good movie, or you had something really good to eat. Maybe you had a good chat with your friends, your family, or cuddled with a cat or dog or whatever animal you have, chinchilla, ferret, snake, anything. Just like praying mantis, like whatever you have. Maybe put on some like lo-fi chill music and cuddle up under a blanket and watch like a Studio Ghibli movie.
I love those movies.
That'd be good.
That's all I gotta say. That's all I'm gonna advise for.
Wait, what's your favorite Studio Ghibli movie?
Mine?
Yeah.
It's always a toss-up between Howl's Moving Castle and Spirited Away, but I have to say Howl's Moving Castle because it's just so good.
I I knew it.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be. Howl. I mean, come on. And Sophie.
How could you not thirst? Yeah, I love
Yeah.
them together.
They're so cute.
You've read the books, right? I know you own them.
Yeah, I read the first book. So,
Oh, you should
yeah.
read the whole series.
Yeah.
I'm reading other stuff by Diana Wynne Jones. And I am absolutely simping for Christopher and Millie.
From the Chrestomanci
Chrestomanci Chronicles.
Yes, that's the one. What's your favorite Ghibli movie, Em?
For a long time, it was Kiki.
Yeah, I love that. That is like, that's always what I wanted to be when I grew up, was a delivery girl, which, yeah, or the artist girl who lived in the woods.
I know,
was
right?
like,
How do you
"Oh,
do that?
I
How
want
do you get that kind of life?
mhm."
Because I want it. Remy, how about you?
Oh, for a little while, I ranked them into my top 5 because I couldn't pick, and I do lists. It sounds like me.
It does sound like you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I started with Spirited Away when I was like 11. I found it in a video rental store back
Aw.
before those were extinct.
Yeah, Blockbuster.
And I think mine was called like Video Palace or something stupid like that. And I didn't know what it was. So I rented it and I watched it. And I was opened up to a whole new world. So that one holds just kind of a special place inside of me. But then it's Howl's Moving Castle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are like the top 2. And
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up on Kiki's Delivery Service. Like, it's really surprising that my mom is the one who kind of like introduced me to anime without really realizing it. She always was like, she's like, is your Sailor Moon on? And I was like, no, it's not on yet. And she's like, oh, okay. She was just always like really into me watching Sailor Moon and Avatar: The Last Airbender. Yeah, she was always real supportive of my love of anime. She's like, well, they're really pretty.
That's cute.
I like Spirited Away enough that I have the tattoos of the soot sprites on my arm. So
Yes.
with their little star candies.
Sometimes I look at them and I'm like, oh, that's so cute.
I love them. It brings me peace. Yeah, I think if I were to ever get any kind of tattoo, it would be something to do with Ghibli. Hi, Sunny. And Sunny's here, friends. Sunny's here to brighten your day, evening, morning, whatever it may be when you're listening.
Hopefully you weren't like trying to sleep right beforehand. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you were trying to sleep right before this, maybe put on your comfort show in the background. Get some sleep.
You do what I do, turn on some horror stories and listen to people murdering each other. Be like, yeah.
Do what my husband... Oh, you know, I can pitch this guy because he is great. We've really gotten into The French Whisperer.
The French Whisperer. Omelette du fromage.
He begins every episode with, hello, everyone. And he's got this like deep, husky voice. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Slumber. Like if you listen to Slumber, like the app, but he's also on Spotify. So check him out. He puts me right to sleep. I'm like, oh, I feel so safe in this strong man's voice. And Josh,
his voice pulls me in his big, strong voice arms.
Josh is the same way. He's like, I feel enveloped.
That is so on brand for him.
Okay.
All right, everybody. You all have a good, restful night. Turn on some Ghibli shit and or French people, French whispering men who envelop you. Au revoir, everybody! But thanks, everybody, for listening. We are very excited to take your questions, too, because we want to hear them and we want to answer them, and we are so super qualified to answer questions. So what you can do is you can visit our website, which is whywouldyouskthat.com, and go to that little contact form, throw in a question, or you can email us at whywouldyouskthathod@gmail.com. So please send us your questions. We don't care how weird it is, how gross it is. Just don't ask any personal questions. That's our one line. Ask your weird questions. That's what we want. So thank you for listening. This is M, Karen, and Remy, and ask us some shit. Thank you. Good night.